Hi guys, welcome back. Another week, another episode of our D2 Talks. This week I have the pleasure to have Thomas of Slashcube, a company based in Switzerland that has done incredible work. I have met Thomas in 2013 in the very first edition of our D2. By talking to him I realized how knowledgeable he was. From that time on his work started to get even better and better. He started to work with architects like Zaha did. He completed very cool projects that got published everywhere. He then became a speaker at our conference. I have a very good relationship with him. I consider him a friend and also a mentor. A lot of the things that I ended up doing in my own career as a designer, I learned from him. Tips and tricks on how to manage business and how to grow my company came out from a direct discussion that we had over the years. Anyway, enough of me blah 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 blah. Enjoy this beautiful talk. And we are on.
Hey,
Thomas, how's it going?
good. Rainy.
Yeah,
Typical.
it's in line with the holidays that you just did in the northern part of Europe.
Yeah, actually, here it's a bit warmer. I'm like, it's nicer.
Dude, everything okay? How's it going? How is life?
Good. We just started yesterday. We take a bit of time to organize, solving some technical issues that they appear after holidays because they were on holidays too much. But overall, yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
Okay, I just want to introduce you to our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to interview today my dear good friend Thomas Vournazos. How do you pronounce your name?
It's actually almost correct. It's Vournazos.
It sounds Spanish. Like every time I'm like, he's Greek, but it sounds like a Spanish name.
Yeah, actually, also here in Zurich, in Switzerland, they pronounce the letters in such a way where when they read my family name, they call me Furnazos.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense actually. It's
Yeah,
the
it,
Germanized version.
yeah, exactly. So I sound even more Spanish, I guess.
Thomas, I am a very big fan of your work, and I'm gonna explain the why to our audience. We basically met at the very first D2 conference. Back then, it was called the Simpin. I remember you sitting at the very back of the room. I was busy running around, and you were so friendly. I had no idea who you were. We were talking a little bit, and I thought, okay, this guy's a super friendly guy. And then you were like, oh, let me show you some of my work. And I was like, shit, this is good. Why are you here? I really remember that. And then I remembered that after that summer that we actually got to meet each other, you went back home, and this is when your company really boomed. You started to work a lot. You got quite a few commissions from very big names actually, like Zaha Hadid. You did a lot of work for Zaha Hadid. You had a couple of other architects, like American architects, and the work that you started to do since the summer that I met you was published everywhere. You started to work with the guys from Corona. You did some stuff also for them. I want you to tell me everything. So I let you talk for now, and then I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. So if you want to add anything to the presentation, to the introduction, just go for it.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that was mainly the story till till today. I remember also when I went to the first conference, I just didn't know what to expect, basically. But getting to know that things that you do, other people are doing or want to do, just makes it more realistic. Because if you just get stuck on social media and your own PC, it doesn't really get it too realistic out of what you do. And basically, yeah, what happened is there were like quite a few events that helped the whole thing just boom a bit. um, I started doing some work with offices, like you mentioned, basically due to people that were working there, and they knew me, like they knew me from like university or something. So everything started as a test, basically. Um, that was the main issue, and the main thing that I had to deal with was that people were expecting a company, or they were expecting like too many people to do stuff, and it was hard for me to just convince them that it's only me,
Yeah.
it's just one guy doing it. And we're talking about back in 2013, 2014.
Yes.
And but that was a good thing, actually, because people try to see how one guy works, and what exactly can one guy do, like what exactly can be done by just one effort. Of course, the team process works vice versa. I need to have someone to tell me, or see, or judge, or get feedback. That was one big factor, that the whole conference things, you get exposed, and people actually see something that you have seen so many times, and for the others it's just fresh, it's just new, and they will say what's good, what's not good. They will judge easily. So that helped a lot with the process on getting into more responsible waters, like having bigger clients that actually put a lot of pressure. That's also one thing that you actually learn about working in such environments. They just can easily put the pressure on you, saying like, this is really important, and if you don't do it good.
Yeah, I remember us having this conversation, when you were like, I'm so stressed because this guy asked me to do this work, and if I fuck it up, it's the end of everything.
Yeah, and basically, I mean, now we look a bit back, and things look more easy now. Like things look more fluid. You don't get so much pressure out of doing even more difficult things. Either it's on the project or on the time you have, and that kind of uh, evolved into something that you were struggling, and now it's like the daily job.
Yes.
And that's also a thing that happened just because most of the work we do is uh, is either too big, or you have to deal with too many stuff, so it gets a bit it gets a bit daily to us. But we don't really have small things, and when it happens, it's just strange.
Yeah. No,
Because
I understand. It's in a way, I think that what you did, you gained the confidence of like people working uh, with you. Like if the architect now calls you, they call you because of the fact that you have created a style, you have perfected your skill, and the work that you offer, it's simply reliable and it looks good. It's actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you. Uh, Maybe we can start already with the proper interview question and answer. Is the ability that you have, I want to say, matured, because of course the process was not a linear one, to really use colors as well as emotions to tell very simple stories, but they're still stories that connect with the viewer. And I think you have done this extremely well. And this is for me a question like, what is your thought process, and how do you focus your attention into creating these stories?
Well, that was one thing that I personally found out, like the hard way, let's say, the trial and error way. I was trying to figure it out how to do things that get some impact, not because of the technicality or the perfection of things that are inside the software that we use, but mainly things that are outside of the software. So the first big step that I managed to just put on a daily basis on the first thought, let's say, process is what happens outside of the environment we're working, meaning what happens outside if you look outside, what happens when you don't have light, what happens when people walk too fast, what happens when you have a crowded area, what what emotions you get out of it. So the first thing that I just stopped doing and started focusing only on is the referencing, meaning what happens in the actual life that we're trying to emulate, like to simulate. Because what we do is just a simulation. We're trying to sometimes duplicate, sometimes copy, but most of the times it's emulation because we're not always there exactly. So people believe that this is real, it's not fake, but they try to get close to the emotions they get. So to deal with these things, you can only deal it if you actually see it in reality. So you take a travel, you go to a forest, you take some days off, you go to Italy, and then you go to another place. You are on a public thing. You get stuck on a riot. So all these emotions from reality actually is what we need to have as tool. So that's what we try to do. So when we have like a project and the client most of the times will get like the typical question like we want this image and this image and this image and this image, but most of the times what we try to get back, and that's when the conversation starts, is what if the building or the site has this kind of impact, seeing it this way, putting this information that it really happens on the area. What would happen if we don't focus on the camera, but what we get out of when we see the building outline? Uh, uh, One example is we might have a project that has no site, and the client will say it's just deserted, we don't have info, it's confidential, but it's like desert. And then we'll ask, what kind of desert is it? Is it like windy? Is it like stormy? Is it, what are you trying to do with the design? So it's a roof that protects people underneath from high winds and probably dust and storm. So what would happen if we go into a stormy deserted area? What will we see? What will be the colors? What will people react? How would people react to it? So of course we cannot really go. I would like to go all the places we have decided to, but then we start to reference. So the first thing we do is not looking at the cameras, not looking how we will make the sky and the sun and the shadow more blue or less blue. We're not trying to take a nice image from the thousands of images that are outside and we'll say, how can we do this color of the shadow? The trees are so green. How can we put these trees on our image? We just focus on what would happen if we take the model and we try to put it on this environment, because that's what will happen. So the first thing we do is we push out a lot of conceptual ideas. It can be references from real images, and we'll just outline in Photoshop, the outline of the building. And then the client will be like, oh, so this is my site, this is my background, oh, I like that, oh, I don't like that, oh, this is maybe too strong. And then the client starts to talk with different language. They don't talk with the glass is too glassy. That will go on a level 2, on a level 3. They will not say the concrete is not so real or the tree is not so good. They will just start talking with color, with how strong the image is. Can we make it less dynamic, more dynamic? Can you put more action? Can you put more flow? And then these are easy words for us to find reference to. If the client would say, the glass, we wanted semi-translucent white glass, like this technicality and this color, and we'll just go on maths where we don't really have any idea. And so all these factors we tried to take out from the beginning. That was my main issue when I would have to do too many stuff, and I would just start half day on the render settings and why my sound is not so good. because it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be something. It
Yeah.
has to be what you are connected with. And that's something outside of the software. If you don't have the connection that you are trying to reach, then you're not anywhere. You just
This
instinctively
is a
random.
this is a this is a beautiful thing that you just said, because I fight all the time to tell people that actually they should focus more on creating an emotional connection with the client, using images, rather than using the rendering tool as a software to show the materiality of things, because in a way the materiality, it's actually, more often than not, is not as beautiful as the idea or the perception that you have of that idea.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you try to take pieces of what you do, you might find pieces that are very nice and pieces that are really bad. But both of them or all of them will be more successful if they are connected to provide an overall idea. And the overall idea is not how good you made the reflection or how nice are your 2D montage people. That will add into the exceptional factor, but the beginning of it can be all conceived as your perception on how things look like. If you don't have that, if you're just stuck on technical things, you'll just be a very good technical guy. And I see that most of the times, like we get examples of people that they do an excellent interior, and then when they have to deal with some work that has to be conceived by you and not a computer, they just lose it. They don't have a line where you can walk on. And that's the opposite thing. You might see things or images that are not so well done, but immediately you have an idea of something that you can connect to, because everybody has their own like memories. We might not be photographers. We might not have like Instagram or Pinterest with thousands of references, but when we see a good image, we connect with something that we either saw in reality or we found out from outside. If you don't connect with the image, that means that the image doesn't have the sufficient amount of purity as it is outside that
Yes.
will let you connect.
Yes. Yes. That's what I want to hear. I'm working on a video. This video will be on the other channel. This is the D2 conference channel. You know that I have my own channel where I talk about business. I spent quite a few days studying, business related things, because I think it's when you talk about business, people always say, "Oh, numbers! I hate numbers. I just want to do art. This is what I want to do." But actually, you can be very creative in business, and business, it's not only about numbers. Yes, you need to fit certain numbers. You need to manage budgets. uh, I know that you were struggling very much in the beginning because your images were way cheaper in comparison to the competition, especially because you're based in Switzerland. Switzerland is freaking expensive. At one point, you had to say, "Okay, guys, this doesn't work anymore. Our prices are now higher," right?
Yeah. That is still it's an issue when we have to deal with somebody that wants to work with us. For me is not so much of an issue anymore. I get to know that some things will not happen because we cannot go lower than we can actually make so that we leave. I'm not talking about having like too many stuff and 50 computers or a huge place where jacuzzis and things like that, table tennises, But we tried to do one thing. We did not connect let's say, the quality of the image and the price. We did not connect the where we are, and that's why we have to charge so much. That happens if the other end is intellectual enough to say, okay, I know that it's not going to be cheap. It cannot be. The thing we have to deal with is what is the thing we offer and how much you evaluate that we help you on something that you cannot do, not because you don't have time, because you don't have the mentality to think like that. For example, I won't be able to be an architect. So if I stay here for another 10 years, I won't be able to expect people to pay me like Swiss money as an architect just because I'm an architect in Switzerland. I won't be good and I won't be successful in convincing someone that he can come to me. But when it comes like to the work we do, what we have deal with is, okay, we need you to provide us with an idea on this project because we like how you create the ideas that we don't really know. We don't have an idea on the things that you can put effort on. And that's not, okay, you do a very nice Photoshop or you do a very nice render and that's why we like you and you're also cheap. We have questions and we think that you can answer them. And of course, the result will be something that we can present. That's why the thing you ask for, the work you do, makes sense. It would make sense if I, let's say, move out of where we are and go to, like, let's say, a cheaper place. That would not change. Okay, now you can live with less, so why do you ask so much? Because I will not change the way that we have to deal with what you want. So, and that's what we get. I mean, yes, we have the typical email, we need 4 images, we need 3 images, we need 5 images, but I can assure you that a lot of times the process, during the process changes and they're like, we also like this image you did. Oh, we like also this process you did. This is nice. So can we have like 3 more? Can we take out these 2 and put these that you did or maybe, and then you see that it's not exactly the work you're doing, the result that they like. They like how they cannot think like you think.
Yeah.
And that is a price that comes out of the collaboration. So of course, if I go now and say, okay, we double the prices, boom, they will just say what happened. But if we say for this project, the thing that we have to put will cost that much or that much, it will not come out of, okay, how many images and why and how big. It will just come out on how much more we have to think with you to make this happen as you might want it. Because most of the times they have an idea and most of the times they change the way they see their own building sometimes,
Yeah. I think that, I think that, this is a very important change that is also happening. I've had a conversation with, I'm not really sure I'm able to disclose this information, so I'm just gonna say with person X that they have a very big company and they are now being hired by architects to develop ideas using their skill to visualize, because eventually, we have finally understood in the architectural world that images can not only work as a marketing tool, but they also need to help in the process of like generating ideas. Because, ideas, the way at the moment I'm researching the topic of idea because one of my next videos will be about telling stories in architectural visualization. So it's very funny how ideas take place in our head. And if you acknowledge the process of creating an idea and creating a vision, you realize that images are needed in the process. You cannot have an information loop where you actually get value out of your thoughts without being able to visualize them concretely, having them in front of you.
Yeah. Actually, I get I get a feeling. I mean, the design tool also changed from what it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I'm not that old. I wasn't there 15 years ago dealing with this thing, but I know a lot of companies are dealing with it. And since the design tool has changed into a more digital, so even the architect starts to think like a computer thinks. So they provide the computer the necessary information, and the computer just complies. But they don't really, most of the times they don't have the maturity to actually understand what is the result. And then we come into place. We have to deal how this looks like and how we get also the feedback out of how it looks. And that is a thing that either the architect will understand and say, okay, you are there to help me see what I'm doing, because the forms I'm using, it's not that they're out there and I get the memories out of it. I mean, this building is typical, but if you have this building, you don't really have a reference on how this will impact into people. So the image process is not anymore the I need from here and from here, put the materials and make it happen. The image process is how the design you do will affect or not as much as you want. And in terms of design process, we had some projects where we would actually deal with a question mark from the architect. Is this design good, or this, or this, or this, or this? So take all these 5 options and make them look the same, appealing, good as we want it to be, like in this case, in this case, in this case. So for us, it's also a process of designing the visual aspect of the tool that they're using to design the whatever form they have. It's not anymore about glass and concrete, about trees and people, about night and day, about stormy or not stormy. It's about what will happen when you put whatever design you have in mind, that you also don't know how it looks because you are not familiar with the form yet. You're only working 50% of the process. You're doing the design. You're not doing how it will fit. You're not seeing it through people's eyes that will see it suddenly, be built. So we are, let's say, we're trying to deal with the thing where the client will say, we have a meeting with the investor and, he bought these glasses and he wants to see how this looks like. We want to make an impact. So there it's not about so much if the image looks nice and if I will win an award because I did very nice image. It's about, will you understand if you build this, that this will be the impact, not only on you, but on the whole environment. And then you get outside of your sphere because you have competition with other industries that will also compete next to it and in front of it, and in 10 years and in 50 years. And then you need something contemporary. You need something to last. You don't need it to just win the competition. You need it for the 10, 20, 25 years later. And this will get impact. We get projects where they say, you have to build the whole thing that will be built in 10 years and our building will have to look even better than the rest. So deal with it. How will we do it, And then it's not about anything that has to do with settings and computer and anything. It's about mind and discussion. So I know what you're referring at, how will we move from being service providers, like I want 1 kilo of beef, okay? Here.
I love, I don't know why. Every time that somebody does an analogy with me, it's always with food.
Yeah, but it's part of it. It's a bit true because we cannot answer on can you do 5 or can you do 7. We cannot answer on that. We might say we can only do 1 because it all depends on how we will do it, and it's it's me and the design initiative. Like
You see, this is a very good point that you're raising, because very often the conversation that I have online with people is, no, I need to at least do 5 images because these 5 images, I charge €1,000 per image. 5 images is 5,000 euros. I get enough money to live for 2 months. And I'm thinking all the time, that if you were really, really good and you focused on really helping a person, and you know that what you're doing will be worth more than the 5 crappy images, you might be able to do one image and still get 5,000 euros. And people, probably because they see, this leverage of 5 against 1, and they say, well, 5 has more value. And actually, this is not really true all the time, because, architects like Rem Koolhaas, they say a project can only be good 65%, 70%, and then the rest, you have to deal with damage control. So, a picture that is very well framed and that tells a better story than 5 crappy ones would be worth more money. It's just that you have to be able, and you have to have the skill to talk to your client and make her understand that what you're doing actually adds real value, instead of like running through the process of making 6 images because the architects want to show that on that table you can put a glass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, how do you deal with demands? Because you have to put the question back. We sometimes say, why do you need 6 images? What is most important on what you want to show? Do you have like the golden point where you say, if you do this, that's it.
Yeah.
So why don't we just start from
there?
The points that will be golden for you? And if that makes 6, then okay. If that makes only 2, then maybe we should call it a day and focus on these 2, and the rest we'll see. Maybe it will happen. Maybe you can even do it. Maybe you won't need it. Or maybe from these 6 that you focus on, because the thing is, you work, you're the architect, you work, you finish, you see, and then you get stuck on it. You don't let people see it from the first time and get a feedback. That is the thing. So the guy that wants to do 5 images because it's 1,000, maybe it can change into, okay, maybe if I offer 5 of what I like and what I think they might also get interested from the architect, then we have another discussion. Maybe I'll do 2. Maybe I can see something that the other side doesn't see. And you have a lot more tools than the designer has to actually convince, because you see more things. You see everything, we see everything. The designer only sees most of the time the building, the structure, the outline. And I can tell you that some of the times, I will not say most of the times, but some of the times they don't even know the exact visual thing that is next to the building. They don't know that there is park. They don't know that there's a lake. They don't know how big is the city from the back, because they have a strict schedule to finish the building, to make it happen. And then you take it, but you don't take only the building. You have everything. You see everything. And that's when you have to put the discussion. And you'll say, look, how I visualize this, that you will also like it because you want to sell it or you want to win the competition, is by going this way, not this way, or by just doing this. And eventually the conversation will get so mature that the next time or the next time or the next time the client will come and say, we have this project, we have an idea, but we want to discuss it with you. What can we do? And then you have another step of collaboration. And then you might change into, I'm not doing numbers of images per month, so I'm okay, I did 10, so I don't need any more. You might be doing 10s all of your life that nobody knows about. That is
Thomas, I really love the way you have matured since I first met you, you know? And I hope that, you know, me by looking at your work, that my understanding of what you're doing is also maturing, you know, together with the way you are evolving. Because honestly, like talking to you is putting a lot of joy inside of me, you know, because I think that a lot of young people, they really struggle understanding the process, and actually you have made it so clear. uh, I have one more thing that I want to ask you, because we are already 4 minutes above our 30 minutes mark. It's crazy, it's going super fast. uh, if somebody new, somebody young comes to you and says, what would you recommend somebody my age, you know, very young, starting out, if I want to get a job, if I want to do this, if I want to become a freelancer? Give me one piece of advice. Go.
well, I would advise um, people to go outside of the box that they are familiar with, because the tool that you know it, and you will get better on it. But you have to improve things that are working outside of this box. So if someone wants to start being better without trying to be better on the software, I would say look at photographers, follow concept art, follow people that are working on the movies. What's how they have to deal with the things they have to deal with. Uh, uh, Go closer into how movies are made. Follow the ones that are responsible for whatever you like or don't like. So if you like a movie, find out how and why they made it like that. If you go outside of your tools, then you'll get better 100%, because the tools will get better anyway. If you're only stuck at your tools, you cannot make them better from what they are, because they only provide what you tell them. They don't provide finished product. So to be better, you have to open up to the things that are responsible for what you do. And we do images, so whatever an image has, a lot of people deal with. So it can be a photographer, it can be a cinematographer, it can be any kind of art, but follow the people that do. Try to find out, because nowadays it's so easy to find out when people talk about how they do and why they do what they do. The inspiration from someone that already is on a level is much more effective than just following up images. We have images to just get our days more up or more down. If we see something better from what we do, we get but this is only just, it's like a Red Bull. It's only for just making the day a bit better. You have to go a bit deeper. I love, for example, the work from like Jeremy Mann. I love the work from too many concept artists. I never knew about them, and they existed 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. They were there. I just didn't know. I mean, how much I got into getting better from that, I will never find out, because I deal with it daily. So you have to start daily, step by step, not trying to copy the best image of the world and try to make the best image that you can do because it's similar to this. It will still not be the best image because it's already there, existing. But you have to deal with you, because when you talk with a client, he talks with you. He doesn't talk with the guy that can copy this image or this image or this image. He expects from you and not from someone else. So be inspired and be curious about all the other aspects of the work you do, because there are people that are doing similar things and they're not even doing renders. They're doing paintings, they do sculptures, things that you might use. It's the inspiration talk that gets you more inspiration. It's not the images. It's difficult to decode an image because it's pixels. That's what I would say.
It's only a bunch of pixels.
It's
Thomas,
just
listen, we are 9 minutes over our 30 minutes mark. I just want to take the time to thank you, for taking the time to do this. I already put on the screen where people can find you. You have a very active Facebook page, also your website. I think you're also on Instagram, right? Posting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so active. It's just too many things, but we try. Actually, we have. If people are able to see, let's say, 30 of the images out there from us, we have like 200, but we cannot show everything. So people be patient.
Yeah.
We try our best.
Listen, I guess I'm gonna see you in Vienna in 2018.
I will try. Yes.
Okay,
Although
you promise.
I will.
I do always my best to have you there.
I know. I will try. I have it.
I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thank you very much for doing this.
You're
Don't
welcome.
go away. I'm gonna say goodbye to you myself. Okay? Thanks a lot again.